right, welcome everybody to a multi-op panel. Thanks for joining the DJ Times online education this week. My name is Mike Walter. If you frequent DJ Times in Atlantic City, hopefully you recognize me. I've only been speaking there for about 20 years, but if you're not a regular attendee in Atlantic City, and you don't know me, I'll introduce myself after I give a chance for everybody on the panel to introduce themselves. I have selected what I consider to be a great panel of multi-op owners. They're not only fantastic company owners, but I tried to be as diverse demographically as possible, age-wise, gender-wise, and also geographically around the country. So I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves. And why don't we start with Kristen down in Florida, and then we'll work our way kind of clockwise around the country, and you can see how well I did. Glenn is trying to picture the map in his head. That would make you
just making sure I'm next.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So Kristin Wilson, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Thanks, Mike. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kristin Wilson. Like Mike said, out of Florida, Central Florida to be exact. I own RDJ Rocks, which is an all-female DJ multi-op. And yeah, excited to be here and share some perspective with you guys.
Thank you.
My name is Glenn Roush. I'm out of Dallas, Texas. We also have an office in Austin, Texas. I own LeForce Entertainment and the LeForce Event Group. We do DJs, AV, a lot of different things. We have a school division, so we cover a wide range of events.
My name is Jorge Lopez, and I operate J&M Entertainment and J&M Events, two companies. The entertainment is the DJs and photo booths and video, casino, all the fun entertainment stuff. And the event side is our production house, and that's for the audiovisual virtual events right now, for example, that side. We're based in just in the suburb, just outside Los Angeles, and we cover pretty much the West Coast.
Hello, Howard Wallach, Chicago. I started A to Z Entertainment in 1987. So a combination of event solutions, event production, and entertainment.
Thank you, Howard. And are you happy with this background now? I know you were changing them around. Are we locking in on this one?
It's a moving animated business, so you'll see a whole bunch of
awesome,
distracting imagery.
All right. And as I said at the top, my name is Mike. I own Elite Entertainment. Mike Walter. I own Elite Entertainment in New Jersey. We do about 1,000 events a year, or we do normally. In a normal year, we do. We'll get to that in a little bit. And I also have a photography and a video division, booking about 16 DJs regularly. So that's your cast of characters and the people you're going to get some information from throughout this. So let's start with the bad news. 2020 has been a rough year for everybody. You can be as specific or as general as you'd like as you answer this question, but what are your losses in 2020? How bad has it been for you? Kristen, should we take the same trip around the country each time? Was that just keep it consistent? Do you mind going first each time, Kristen?
Sure, let's go.
You go, girl. How bad has 2020 been? Keep that laugh.
So I'm totally fine being an open book. I pulled some numbers to share with everybody just to help give perspective. For us as a DJ and photo booth company, our revenue is down 35% from 2019. And down 47% compared to what I anticipated it to be. And usually I'm pretty spot on about where we're going to land. As far as booking goes, which is, people contacting us for future events, we're down 30% compared to last year. To be very honest, I expected these numbers to be a lot more. So I'm quite surprised that they're not drastically higher. As far as new inquiries, because I always look at that as well, we're down about 28%. Operation-wise, we have serviced over 315 couples, whether that be a cancellation or a postponement. I should take a deep breath after saying that. Mike, I know you've done a lot more, but this has definitely been the most emotionally rough time probably I've ever experienced in life in general. And I think, another one of the losses for me would have to be being able to continue to support my team, because a lot of my DJs have needed to figure out a second income, or even if they had a full-time job elsewhere and did DJing on the side, their other availability has changed. So that has obviously changed our availability for booking future events, because of that. So that's been a bit of an operational challenge as well.
Thank you, Kristen.
All right. Well, coming back to Texas and knowing that California is next, I'm trying to think of how I do this very delicately and softly, because we are.
If you say you're up, I'm cutting you off. Okay.
I'm not gonna cuss on this podcast.
You're prepping us like I thought you were gonna go. We're up 28%.
Well, no, we're down 40% for the year. So I didn't go into numbers in my intro, but I have about 30 DJs. We do approximately in 2019 before pandemic, we did just under 2,000 events. This year we're scheduled to do, looks like if we don't have another shutdown, we should. I'm looking at DJ Event Planner, which is a great software for those of you if you don't use it.
Plug.
Right now, yep, absolutely plug. Right now we're scheduled at 1,023 events. So about half of the events, but our revenues are still coming in at about 60% of what they were. They're half, Kristen, to your point, they're half of what I expected when I was speaking in Las Vegas in February, thinking that this was going to be one of the best years ever.
Yes.
So revenues are down there. Our 2021 is still a lot. I mean, it's a lot of people that have postponed, but it's looking solid. We're starting to see an increase in inquiries for 2021, and we're starting to see some inquiries for people kind of kicking the tires for 2022. Texas is mostly, I mean, we're not fully reopened, but mostly reopened. And so really for us here, it is a waiting game on the confidence side for people to be more confident, feeling safe, being at events. And so like we've had planners, we've had a number of people hit us up about, like corporate events. And we had a few inquiries on corporate stuff for November, December, and then they've decided not to move forward with it, mostly because of the optics. So we have companies that are doing well, but because of the optics, they're not going to throw a holiday party yet. They're not ready. So I'm still trying to remain optimistic for first quarter is always slow in Texas. But I'm trying to remain optimistic that the last 3 quarters of 2021.
I have a feeling when you hear the next 3 of us answer that question, you might feel a lot better. I could be wrong, but George, you want to let us know if your numbers are scarier than theirs?
Glenn, hold my beer.
I know, man. That's why that was really why I was concerned about going before George, is because I'm like, oh, I know how bad California is.
If I could say I was down 30-something%, man, I would be freaking having a party right now. Down 90%, both divisions, 10% barely what we're hanging. And that's primarily because of a pivot that we made, which I know will be a question coming up, and I'll get into it. Had to make a lot of drastic decisions. I was very proactive going into that, and we'll discuss that as needed. But basically down 90%, and had to tough on everybody. Pretty much my lease was up at one point right at the end of April, so I had to make a decision in May, and I'm now working my business out of my home where I had a large 5,000-6,000 square foot warehouse, etc. So I had to release pretty much 90% of the staff and just kind of bare bones. We started doing a little bit of work in August is where it started. Ironically, a memorial service, which was kind of made sense with 2020. So we did that. And then, a few of these very small little weddings, the 30-person backyard kind of thing, but minuscule. Honestly, just there's not much there other than the virtual stuff for us. So it's been frustrating. It was painful to a point, but there's been some realizations about it that in a weird way, there's some positives, but as far as looking at the outlook going on with Kristen and Glenn were saying, 2021, honestly, because we would do a lot of production work, and all of that is probably not until at least, middle of the year on next year. It's all the events we have are pretty much the postponement events that moved into next year. However, that being said, starting around the end of August, we started noticing leads coming in finally, because the problem people are having is that they don't know when they can start planning, because even the few events that we're starting to book now are all asking kind of uncomfortably, hey, because we don't know where, what happens if they're, we have to explain, look, we get it. You might have to postpone whatever, and we have to address that. But it's pretty much I mean, we might have about 10 events that are new events that we booked for next year that are not just the postponements.
Howard?
Yeah, here in Chicago, it has been rough. This is a very volatile situation. North of events, they were the milestone events. So things that were corporate or school or park district, those are gone forever. All of the production that we would have done, conferences, etc., gone. They didn't rebook. They didn't delay. In terms of new business, I'll be honest with you, no one wants to be a super spreader. People are very hesitant to book any kind of event with any kind of real numbers. There's all the collateral. Are people going to fly into my event? Are people going to get sick at my event? Are people going to post on social media about my event? So I would not be in the camp that new calls, intakes are trending. Rather, I would say what is happening is we're getting a lot of last minute, random calls. They are enigmas in the calendar. Not only are they last minute, but it's been very, very challenging to express value. Every call is haggling, whether it's a micro event or it's a virtual event. Income and moving dollars has never been harder. Even when I received the PPP with all of the moving issues related with that, it was over in 8 weeks. We applied for the EIDL loan, which, as many of you know, is offered by the government to 3% payback over 30 years. And it's a lot of money, but that's presuming we do all of their rules and regulations regarding that. And at some point it's due. That's not forgivable. Mm-hmm. So the combination of cutting costs across the board, I too had to make a decision about our office. I had to let people go. And like Kristen said, trying to manage this roster, their expectations, their hopes and dreams is everything. And there will be a problem in the future trying to cover every base. I foresee having to hire new people and going through some new training. I think that is what is real. So my short answer.
Thank you. Thank you. So numbers wise, we're down 2/3 seems to be across the board. We're down 2/3 as far as number of events. We're down 2/3 as far as incoming leads go for next year. Our closing rate compared to what we normally take in, deposit dollars, is down about 2/3. So that seems to be, we have fallen into this. That's what we're down. Kristen, you referenced how many clients you've serviced and had to move. We are coming up on our 500th that we've had to move. And like you said, Kristen, it's not just the dollars. And I'm sure we all feel this way. It's the emotions. I've been on phone calls with brides who are crying. I've been on phone calls with brides who are cursing, not at me, but just at the situation. And I don't blame them, because I feel the same way. I have cried over 2020. I have screamed over 2020. I have punched the wall over 2020. So I can certainly relate. So yeah, those are our numbers. It's bleak, but hopefully once we get a vaccine and once we start pulling out of this, things come back to normal. I also do, this is maybe the optimistic me, I also think after the darkest times, people do want to celebrate and party. So hopefully we experience that. After the Depression, there came the Roaring 20s. So hopefully that happens. I wanted
to speak to that for just a moment.
Sure.
You know, we often talk about what happened in 2008. We talk about what happened after 9/11. And I have a little bit of a different take. If we go all the way back to 2008, it wasn't that people were worried about celebrating again. I think ultimately what happened was we proved to be the most bang for the buck compared to live music.
There is certainly
what
that.
happened was we picked up more business because we were more of a solution. We were helping them show the video and bring in staging, and we can help them with the rehearsal dinner. We were more of a bang for the buck. And so I don't feel like back then we may have benefited from that.
All right. It's a very, very good point. So, Howard, you mentioned government funding. That I'll just ask that real quick, going around the horn. Did you apply for? Did you receive? How well did you do? You don't have to go into specific numbers, but Kristen, did you get any of the government funding?
We did. We got the PPP loan. Obviously, that covered us for 8 weeks. We blew through that pretty quickly, but I'm thankful that it covered payroll. I feel like, gratitude looking back out of that was that allowed me 8 weeks of time to strategize and figure out, okay, what's next once this ends, because we all knew going into this wasn't going to be a short walk.
Right. Glenn, you're muted.
Sorry, Phil. We did the PPP, not the EIDL. We got approved for the PPP. We got approved in the secondary round. So it was, we got approved primary round. They had run out of money. And so we had to wait and be in limbo to find out that they were going to add additional funds. Luckily, when they added the additional funds, we got the program. I agree with Kristen. It helped for the short term. It was a nice thing. I wish they would have had a much, and I know they were just operating from the hip, but it was hard with all the changing expectations, changing rules, and we're trying to survive while at the same time figure out how to navigate these loans that are changing as the government decides.
And they still are, Glenn. I mean,
Yeah.
they just said that anything under 50,000 is going to be automatically forgivable. You're not even going to have to fill out paperwork. So I think they're still trying to figure out how they're going to manage this whole thing.
Right. And so, but it was a help, and I'm glad that we were able to get it. I'm going to be going through the process. Now that we've got taxes done, and October is normally a busy month for us. Obviously, it's a little different this time, but it is still fairly steady. So I was just trying to get through. I've got some this weekend, and then I'm going to have some free time to really tackle the loan forgiveness side. But
that's
I'm
my next week.
It, but
my next week's project too. Yeah, actually 2 weeks, because I want to get my third quarter taxes done, because those are going to be important to having those documents. So once I get those done, so probably first week of November. George?
Got both PPP and an EIDL. Haven't done anything with the EIDL, pretty much put it in an account. It's just been sitting there. My goal with that was not to use it for defense, only to use it for offense, which means I didn't want to have it to make payroll and pay bills and rent. And I don't want to go into debt for that. That's what made my decision really clear about cut all expenses back down to bare minimum, be able to weather the storm, because I saw that this was going to be a longer route. So the money's there and just not touched. My idea is to get to that once we start coming out. Then I've got some offense and equipment, inventory, marketing, hiring, whatever, but then the funds are there and I'll feel it's better spent. Got a PPP loan. It helped out a little bit, payroll, blah, blah. But honestly, if I had to do it over again, I don't think I'd do a PPP loan personally. When you looked at the complexities of having to tell the people to come back where they were making less money than what they were getting on unemployment, and there was kind of like that little ruffling of feathers of back and forth, didn't really have any really credible work for them to do. We did one thing that helped out is we did some virtual promotional events for virtual events. That was the one thing that, was help. We did like 2-3 of those, but for the most part, to have everybody on for 8 weeks of time, I think it was kind of a waste of money. So I'm glad that most of it is forgivable. But unfortunately, there are, I didn't have all of it would be forgivable. I would still end up having a little bit of a balance at the end that I'm going to have to pay. So when I look at having to pay that still because of what we were, it's kind of like, so that's where, but I did get both.
And Howard, you mentioned it, but do you want to just go?
I've pretty much answered it, but I will say that there was a derivative during this process that made me change accountants. I was actually, at the time, emotional and, to be honest, offended that my accountant said to me that there will be a surcharge to answer any and all PPP questions and concerns. Beyond your monthly payment, there's a one-time fee. You can call and email anything you want during this time about PPP for X. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't think that is appropriate. In fact, I think it's taking advantage. And they said, on our end, many of our clients are disruptive to our normal, sequence of things during the day with all the quarterly reports we have to do. And it's taking over, so we have to do it. And I said, well, thank you for your 8 years of service, but I'm going to work with someone that won't charge me for that. That phone call, she charged me for that phone call.
Wow.
Because I asked PPP questions. So sadly, I had to move on as a result. And I can see both sides, but it hit me the wrong way.
I think there's a lesson there about loyalty. If you were with the service for 8 years, you would think they would make an exception at least. 18. I'm sorry. I thought you said 8. Wow. So just to answer the question, we did get PPP. I, like you, Glenn, I didn't get it in that first wave, which I now look back and consider that to be fortunate because by the time I got the money, they were already talking about they were going to extend the 8 weeks. So I didn't hurry up and spend it. I basically leaked it out over. And so I think it helped us a lot get through the summer and even into the early fall. I think I finally ran out of funding in like mid-September. So it certainly helped us get through that time. I have only begun the process of looking at what it takes to be forgivable. I'm confident that I'll be completely forgivable. So in that case, I can't complain. I mean, I think it's, any amount of money that's given to you that you don't have to pay back is pretty cool. I also did get a pretty sizable SBA loan, which I hate, and I hope I don't have to use it. I don't have to start paying it back till June of next year. Like George said, I put it in a completely separate account. I hope I don't have to touch it. But if I do, at least it's there. At least I know, I've always been adverse to debt, but at least I know I have something there to help us sustain. All right. So let's start talking positively. That was the negative stuff. Did you create any new revenue stream? George, I think you already kind of hinted at this, but Kristen, we'll start with you. Did you create anything new? And even if it was a failure, let us know. Like what did you say to yourself during this time? Hey, let's implement this.
So I wish I could be the one on the panel that was like, yes, we innovated this and we innovated that. But for us, it was, we went into survival mode. And so we were all hands on deck. And so to answer this question and say that we did have a success in something, I kind of want to piggyback on what Howard had mentioned earlier about the DJ industry in general after 2008. And that was that he believes that people are going to start finding value in us and that we're going to be able to bring a service to them to fulfill kind of that void. And so that's what I'm already seeing. And so we did 2 things. We partnered with a local company who does live streaming extremely professionally with HD cameras, the whole 9 yards, and it's not cheap. And then we also partnered with a local design and production company to offer things we have never done before, like dance floors, custom DJ facades, backdrops, drape, like all the things. And what I will say in the last 3 months is that our packages have gotten bigger than they have before. And so in a sense, I think that's success because it's still cash flow.
Amen. Yeah, I think so. Glenn?
So we added streaming services, for ceremonies, for corporate events, for those type things. We have done some of it. We have not gone all in, as I've seen some companies, some DJ and event companies have really gone very heavy on it. I think part of that is because we were in a state that opened up sooner than other states, and so we had a lot more people wanting to do in person faster than others. But then the bigger thing for us was I still believe in the future of events. Couple key things there. First of all, it was already mentioned, but I believe that all of this is going to create additional, not so much pent up demand, but pent up excitement. The events that we are having, people are excited to be there, even if it's 80 people or 50 people. They're going crazy. They're going ham. Really, they're having a good time because they've been stuck inside for so long. So even if it is, you just have to, even if it's not a crazy dance party and everybody's socially distancing, everyone's staying and everybody's having a lot of fun because they're just happy to be at something. And so I think that once comfort levels grow and get better, I think that people are going to be ready to party. And then the other piece of it is, unless there's some drastic change, I know people don't want to hear this, but the rich have gotten richer And during all this, and really this isn't a political discussion, this is just the rich have gotten richer. And so my target client demographic, a lot of them are still doing really well. So I expect that once it's safe to, they're going to throw parties. Like it's the reality of the situation. So, I'm looking towards that. So with that in mind, we really took, expect to come back even if we have to wait. We know that this is somewhat a game of survival because there are going to be event professionals that aren't going to be able to maintain and survive. And then on the other side of it, I was fortunate enough to get to hear a gentleman that I highly respect. His name is Jorge Lopez. He's out of Los Angeles, California. And he spoke in July, and he shared about, build the company that you want, not the company that you had. And ever since I heard that in July, I've been really, really focused on that. Like when we're rebuilding this, and so we've spent the last few months as we've been servicing events and really talking about things, spending a lot of time evaluating and talking about what do we want to do in the future. Because at some point, this goes back to some semblance of normalcy, or at least demand starts to increase. And so for us, it's talking about, okay, we have a fantastic DJ company, and we are really proud of the DJs that we have and that we have on our team and that we've developed. And so, what are the pieces of our business that we don't enjoy, we don't take joy from, things that we just do just because it's what other event or other DJ companies do. And so we're just really taking hard looks at that to figure out, okay, where's the alignment of our values, what we want to do, what makes us happy, and how can we cut out the things that we were doing before that were just generating dollars to generate dollars. So, we haven't built a lot of new services, but we have spent a lot of time thinking about the services that we offer and what do we want to be as we go into the future. Thank you, George.
My pleasure.
Teed you up there, George.
My pleasure. For us, it's been pretty easy. It's the virtual event side, and that was a natural transition to us because, as I said, we have the two divisions of the company. There's the entertainment side and everything, which was really halted. And then on the positive was the virtual, because we've already done a lot of technical and event production, and the virtual component is something we've already done for about 3 years prior, because you'd have these State of the Union address events and such, and then we would have a live stream option for all the people across the country, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a little easier, and we already had the equipment, the video switchers and et cetera, and all that we have to do, tech booths and such. That would be the thing that the realization of it. As far as not only the pivot, but the moving forward, as others have addressed, I was on a conference back in August, and one of the speakers was Colin Cowie, if you guys know him, high-end planner. He made a comment that really resonated with me. It was, stop saying when things come back to normal, when we go back, when we get back. He says, it isn't going back. We're only going forward. There's no back. Get over it. And you got to go forward with whatever that reality is and will be. Some of the elements I think are going to be better, greater, more opportunistic, et cetera. And there's some things that are gone. That's just life. That's just the way it works out in all businesses for everybody. I think through times like this, you kind of, the strong survive, not just in businesses, but services, products, new ones are invented out of need. And other times the ones that are really, really valuable make it through the clutter. And I think that happens for all of us, going into that, build the business you want, not the business you had. I think we've all been in a situation at some point, if you've been in this business 20 plus years, where you've always said those little comments, if I were to do this all over again, I would blah, 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 or I wouldn't do blah, blah, blah. Well, huge paradigm shift, bam, it came to us on our plate. We've been given that opportunity, and now we've been able to look at the do's and the don'ts, what I would do to be more efficient, more effective, better culture, more profitable, whatever it is. So that's, I think, the positive of it. But the virtual event side, like I said, that's our 10% of the business that we've got left. But the positive for me and other companies like myself that do production as well as entertainment is I think that virtual component is going to stick around a lot longer than people realize. Not just full, but I think the hybrid version of it. Because you've got a lot of CFOs and stuff who are looking over the budget of an event going, wait a minute, we can do a regional event, have 200 of our people here in a room with a couple screens, this, that. But the other 800, we can have them in remote. That's 800 flights we don't need to deal with. You know, a couple of nights lodging for 800 people. That's 1,600 rooms. I know the people in the hotel business don't want to hear this, but I do think CFOs are going to go and say, wait, and all that goes to the bottom line on the net. I've already talked to planners of events like that who have said before we would charge $400 or $500 for a conference and barely break even. Now we're charging $150 for a conference and we're actually turning a profit. We're still sharing content like this event here, sharing this content. Hopefully it's helpful and beneficial to those. But when you don't have the F&B and the plus services and this and that and the other, I know that dings others, but there's going to be people that will look at it as bottom line numbers, especially when you're trying to raise money for an organization. That's going to stick around. So I think having some component of that, I think even with weddings, by the way, you look at weddings and think about when grandma can't fly because of, illness, age, whatever, how many times you still wouldn't want to have that TV monitor and grandma's doing a toast from across the country in your wedding. There's still some really cool, valuable moments that you'll be able to add in that are going to be not only just valuable, but almost expected that you offer that. Otherwise, your competition will kind of beat you out.
Thank you, George, very much. Howard?
So I'm going to talk about the positive. I just want to say this before I start. Glenn, you've said a lot that I would need to unpack. There's some stuff in there that I just want to address. But let's start with, rather than repeating what everybody said, yes, I have enjoyed helping produce ceremonies and mitzvah services and gamification and galas. I love the moving parts. I love the pressure. I love it. It's what I'm used to doing in terms of being a service guy and a hospitality guy. So here are some positives I want to just say to everybody. During this time, I have really amped up my compassion, my empathy, my accommodation, and Lord knows, my wordsmithing. I have had to write some of the most challenging emails and follow-ups to clients who genuinely respect and adore me and my company, but when they don't get the answer they want, become aggressive, and I dare say some were bullies, threatening bad reviews and the like. It has been an enormous maturing process to realize we can't please everybody all the time. And I have, in some instances, had good hours and bad hours, good days and bad days, where I'm going to kind of go back to something Gled said. Some of the joy has been sucked out of what we do when people act like victims, and they're abominable. Some of the personalities with chargebacks on their credit cards and threatening lawsuits, it's been a lot. It's been a lot to deal with. And if anything, I've learned how to be nimble and, offering alternative solutions. And my mantra has been, look, none of this is win-win. Let's each get to the next best thing. We're all making sacrifices here. Let's make all of this work any way that we can. I want to talk about many of the DJs saying the word pivot or saying I've worked out a way to do a curbside, a drive-by, a micro event. I have a problem with that personally, because I think we are training the population that it is a solution to do a modest version of a big event, and it's socially acceptable and it's okay. Look, we don't need to do a $70,000 affair with a coordinator and a videographer and linen. We can just have a backyard celebration with a $300 DJ. And that's not cool. That's not something I want to promote or suggest as an alternative to what we really are about. So I know that a lot of people are doing that. I know that people are also saying, look, I've got an inflatable screen. I've got the projector. I'll do it for $3. I'm not down with that. I wish that wasn't the quickest, easiest way for DJs to go out and hustle. I know that some must, but that would not be where I lead with.
I think I'm more forgiving of anyone who's doing that. I think of the scene in Goodfellas when is it Paulie who's the head of the family, and he tells the guy, what you did in jail. I don't mind you selling drugs in jail because that was in there, but now that you're out here, it's back to normal. I think we're all going to get through this and realize we may have done some stuff that we normally wouldn't have done, but we did it during 2020, and that's okay. I think we're all going to get a pass. I don't know. I don't see it as that bad of a thing, and maybe because we're doing plenty of outdoor backyard.
I know in my heart what George said is it rings the closest to me and my reality here, that this kind of hybrid or virtual or streaming reality will long outlast the pandemic because of its practicalities and its efficiencies.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think sales has changed forever. We do Zoom sales now all the time. And I think when we are back to normal, we have a beautiful office here, and we're still going to want to invite people in. We were already, the traffic in our office was already on the down low or on the downtrend. And I think that will only continue. People are going to get used to, no, why can't we just Zoom? And I think that's going to be a reality moving forward. You can make an argument whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, though. If you build up your closing rate in this format, the one good thing about that is I can fire off a 6:30, a 7, and a 7:30 appointment on Zoom. I don't necessarily do that when they're coming in because I'm afraid.
That's right.
Sitting, chatting, I can be more efficient time-wise. So, there are going to be, like George said, there are going to be permanent changes. I like that concept that Planner said. There is really no going back. It's looking forward. Some of the future will look like the past, but some of it won't. There's going to be indelible changes. So, were you done, Howard? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I think you closed that off well. I think that I'm using Calendly. It's part of my every correspondence. For our follow-up, for our next step, please log in and schedule either a phone or a video chat so we can be efficient with our time. And I'm finding a very full schedule because there's no drive time, there's no breaks. It's crisp, and I like it. I'm very happy that my time has been maximized and no fluff.
So,
hey,
Kristen,
Mike, really
quick,
just on capping on that point, statement I've always lived by a lot in business is problems or opportunities, right? Because when you see a problem, it's usually when it draws your attention, and now you end up inventing something that becomes an even better situation. And I think that one great example in my business, for example, I had the office and the lighting ballroom and this and that. You guys, some of you have been at my buildings over years. It was a huge attraction. But like you, Mike, we had seen the traffic slow down, And while that had been a pain, and part of it was because we're in a suburb of LA, and if anybody's ever been in Los Angeles, everybody always says, how long does it take to get there? And they'll always say, well, with traffic, there's always traffic. Okay. Well, that was a big dilemma because driving from, the San Fernando Valley to LA, which is normally could be a 25-minute, 20-minute drive, it's an hour plus. So this actually solved that for us because this became an equalizer, because now I'm not asking somebody to drive what could be a 2-hour drive for them to me, where it's just get on your Zoom, we go into it, you're not at the same place, great. Now you got them both, nobody's driving. You want mom involved? Let's get mom and dad into the meeting, etc. Makes it easy. So all of a sudden it actually solved a problem that was one of our bigger deterrents of generating business. So funny how it works out.
I love you, George. You always have great nuggets. Kristen, just to agree with kind of what you said, we really have not made any new effort here. The only thing that we really tried to do for a while, we were live streaming every Thursday night. Thursday nights were with Elite. We were trying to make that a thing. And it was initially, it was kind of a novelty, and we were monitoring it. And we had, maybe 50 or 60 people watching us every week. And then that number went down to 30. And then it went down to 20. And then I realized I was basically live streaming to my mom at one point. And I was like, Mom, I love you, but I'm not setting up all this gear just to spin music for you. So, but looking ahead to reference what George has said, we think that might be the future of bridal shows. We always do a lot of showcasing, but Dominic and I, my right-hand guy here, he and I have talked about formatting an online streaming bridal show, and not just for the first quarter of 2021 when bridal shows probably won't happen, but maybe moving forward, we do some kind of, and now for the next 20 minutes, we'll throw it to Tommy in his studio, and then I take it back and I do a little bit, and then we throw it to Dominic in his studio. So even though the live streaming was ultimately a failure because it didn't get us the numbers that we wanted, the idea might come to something else.
You're preaching to the choir. I agree. We did the same thing, thinking it'd be exciting, also to stretch all of our streaming capabilities and learning curve, but effort versus reward was not there. So we too stopped.
Although I'll tell you what, also to make a positive out of it, for the first couple of weeks I live streamed, my theme was sing-along songs. And so I built up this amazing crate in Serato of songs, hundreds of songs. And now the events that I've been doing, a lot of them dancing is frowned upon. So what am I playing? Sing-along songs. So even though I didn't put that crate together to make me a better DJ in August and September, as it turned out, I was in that crate often. So I don't regret it. But yeah, at some point I was.
No, the times we went live, I was high as a kite. I was like, all that adrenaline, all that excitement, that transfer of energy leapt off the screen. I got wonderful compliments, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of work to do that. And as the numbers went down, it's like, maybe we should be doing this.
Well, we had a similar experience on the streaming thing. The other thing I would just quick add on is, though, that it was and has been a great way for the DJs to stay fresh, exercise that muscle, and also just have chances to do some creative stuff, play together, play some songs that they may not normally be able to play at events. Right. So that part was really fun with the Twitch side.
Right. So one of the things that makes us multi-ops is that we have staff. And I think, Kristin, you already talked a little bit about that. But in the time we have remaining, why don't we talk about, have you done anything differently with your staff? How has it been managing your DJs or your office staff or anybody else? Kristin, start that one again.
Yeah, so it definitely has been different beyond belief. There has been a lot of things that have happened in the last 8 months that have emotionally put people in a different place, not just COVID. So, to answer this question directly from my internal team, we have still held our weekly operations meetings, and we still have our routine sales and marketing meetings. Obviously, the topics depend on what's going on in the company. For my talent team, it's a little bit different. Everybody has really been independent, and that's how the relationship has been. So, things like we were supposed to have our summer retreat, we couldn't do that. So I've really had to extend myself virtually and post more in our Facebook group. We have had wedding shows in Florida. And so I've had to do little get-togethers. Let's say, like, if we ended a wedding show, we'd all go out to dinner together. So instead of creating things like a team retreat or mandatory meetings, it's really been those organic connections that I really never had time for before. And then, figuring out, because it's third quarter, am I having my own company holiday party this year, which is difficult. We've all been talking about, as a CEO, how do you make a decision to bring everybody together? And luckily we were able to figure out a way that made sense. It's safe, it fits in guidelines. And so that's giving them something to look forward to, because the conversations, are starting to come about via text. And then lastly, what I will say is, when we cut our budget, we did not cut out our lease with our landlord. We were lucky enough for them to essentially forgive 6 months of rent, and they're just adding on 6 months onto the back end. So I don't have to pay that back. They're essentially just extending my lease, and I got 6 months for free. So, I cried when he told me that on the phone. So
Kristin, can I interrupt that for 1 second, just because I know the story? He didn't offer that to you, right? You asked for it. Is that correct? Do I have that correct?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
So that's one of those things. He may or may not have even wanted to do that for you, but you were aggressive enough, and not everyone would have asked that question is my point. So kudos to you.
Well, and I did, and I just approached it and I said, hey, I've done every possible thing that I can. This is the last thing on my list. I literally have zero event income. What possibilities do I have? And he called me immediately on the phone and he said, I know your industry has been impacted. Luckily for them, they're a holding company, so they don't look at properties and make their income monthly. They buy properties, hold them, and sell them. And so it kind of, worked out in that sense. But since Florida is open, my husband and I decided to, thankfully, he's the best handyman in the entire world. And he's renovating 3 of our in-house offices, because essentially what I want to do is, instead of those being like butts in the seats, people on the phone, since everybody's working virtually, we're going to turn those into one of 2 things. Either, if gosh forbid we shut down again and have to start a pitch, then by all means we're going to have a virtual live stream room. But also, because we're doing wedding shows and things like that, and we have our email marketing list, I'm going to start doing small and intimate open houses where there's maybe 5 people every hour, and there's couples that come in and we're selling to them. So and
Awesome.
and I'm hoping to leverage the building, because right now a lot of DJs are getting rid of their office space. So fingers crossed on that one.
Glenn?
Things with my team have been relatively good. So most of my team has this is a side hustle for them. And to any of you guys watching this, one of the things that I teach my team is that DJing is it's a great side hustle. It's a difficult primary income. It's not impossible. I never use the word impossible, and it's not bad. It's just challenging. In times like right now, it's incredibly challenging, as we can all attest to. So most of my DJs have their other source of income still, and so it's really just a matter of, when are my postponed events going to happen? When am I going to get, when are those things going to be starting up again? We had a situation during all this where one of our key DJs left, not of his own accord, but unfortunately I can't get too deep into that because of legal reasons on this Zoom call. But I will say, though, with that, it was also another rallying point for my team, for us to be able to have that talk point, have that touch point, have something to discuss, and really have beneficial conversations and kind of rally around. And for me, it's been through the shelter in place. One of the joyous pieces was I would get on and play video games with my DJs. Some of them played Nintendo Switch, a bunch of them played Call of Duty, and we'd get on and play video games and chat and just keep up that way. The other night, we let's not talk about Cowboys Monday Night Football, but there was Monday Night Football, and I have a big backyard, so we were able to socially distance out in my backyard, and so we set up the big blow-up screen. Luckily, Howard, I did not have to pay $200 for it. I have one, so we set up the blow-up screen. We watched the game, and then after the game, we played Mario Kart and Smash Brothers and a whole bunch of stuff on the big screen in the backyard till like 3 a.m. It was great because it was a bunch of grown men acting like 12-year-old boys, just hanging out, having fun together. So I've tried to keep that connection and that bond with them, trying to keep their spirits up. I check in on them. One of the things I would encourage you is, with your staff, with your team, make sure that you're calling, texting, asking the question of, how are you doing? How's your mental health? How are you holding up? Do you need anything? Do you just need to talk?
Exclamation point.
And just give people the freedom to tell you, like, yeah, things suck right now, or things are great. And just don't try to offer a ton of advice. Sometimes just let people talk. For me, I struggled with a little bit of depression during the shelter in place myself. It was oppressive. For those of you that know me, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, 2 boys. I love them, adore them, and they're my world. But at the same time, 8 weeks with just my wife, myself, and 2 little kids that wake up at 7 o'clock or earlier every day, it got to be challenging. But we all had challenges.
George, I'll throw to you in a second, but I just want to interject there. I know a lot of multi-op owners. I don't know anyone who has a better relationship with their staff than you, Glenn. You strike that balance between being friendly with your staff, but also being their boss better than anybody I know. And I tip my cap to you. And maybe it's just because I've been down to Dallas so often. I happen to be a fellow long-suffering Cowboys fan, as you are. So I've gone to Dallas a number of times and gone to games with Glenn and some of his crew. And the bond there is just, it's real, and you can feel it from an outsider looking in. So kudos.
Thank you, Mike. That is something that you build in from the very beginning, from the groundwork up. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that you can't add, but it's just something that you have to understand, because I get that question a lot about me and my team and my dynamic, my relationship with my team, the way that I keep my team members, my DJs, how they stay around for the long term. And I have to help people understand that it's a cultural thing that we have built into our company, that from the very beginning, I have conversations with my brand new DJs that have just finished DJ school, helping them understand that you are a W-2 employee, but you are a W-2 employee so that you don't have your own tax, all those things, make sure that we have workers' comp and all the protections that you're going to need. But beyond that, the biggest piece of the conversation that I have with them is, you are an employee, but we are partners in this thing, in the sense of, I have a vested interest in the success of your DJ career. You have a vested interest in the success of your DJ career. We're going to make money together. And if you can focus on that piece, let's go make a lot of it together. And for me, it works, because I do as much as I can to push my team forward to be successful.
Amen. Thank you. George?
First of all, I want to apologize for all the fidgeting I've been doing here. I have this fly that's been flying around me here causing trouble, and I'm concerned because I don't have any idea of its political affiliation. So just trying to make sure that it doesn't fly from the bit. No Jeff Goldblum's.
Is that your dog barking too, by the way?
No.
Somebody has a dog in the background. Whose dog have I heard?
That's actually the quietest she's ever been. Oh. So with this topic here, here's kind of my take on it, because in essence, I remember 90% slack up on business. So I think the biggest personal pain of this for me, there's the money side and finances and, decision making and all that. I think the biggest pain when I did have, going to what Glenn was talking about, when I did have my sunken moment in the past 7 months, I've always kind of identified myself very much as a leader with a team. I've prided about our company culture. I've always been invested into my employees and or DJs and production staff, et cetera, into their personal well-being, into them enjoying what they do. I've never had contracts. I've never had any of that. It's always been, the moment you no longer have your smile here, we will shake hands. I'll hug you. I'll give you the best damn recommendation you'll ever get for your next job. Move on, be happy somewhere. That's always been my thing. I've never wanted anybody to be locked in to work with my company, because I've always realized this is all temporary for pretty much everybody. I think part of our industry, some of the people have a challenge with that, when I brought this person in and we're like best buds and we're this and we're that. And then one day the honeymoon is over and that, guy or girl moves on. And then there's this, they're backstabbing and they're this and it's bad and it's evil and they're the devil and all this stuff. And it's like, what did you expect? Did you really think that every person that works with you is going to be there forever? I realized a long time ago, it's always temporary. And if they work there a year, one season, if they work there for 10 years, 20 years, when that time comes up, celebrate it. Hey, man, thank you for your commitment for 1 year. We had some rocking memories for that year. It was unbelievable, man. Remember that event we did, this, that, and the other, and move on. Because I think we have unrealistic expectations of thinking that it's going to be forever or you're a bad person. And you're not doing them a service, and you're definitely not doing yourself any help, because all you're going to do is set yourself up to be angry or frustrated or whatever. And that's the part that hurt me at most, because I didn't have a team to lead. I'm like, I don't have a team. I had to move my business to my home. I got the dog doesn't listen to me, barks whenever they want. I have no one to lead. And so there was that part of it. But once you got it connected and understood that, you know what, I'm okay, because what I've always wanted is for people to be better off when they left my company than when they came in. And we have that. You guys have heard me preach on this before at other conferences, et cetera. Is, you know, we get people that come in at 16, 17, 18, 19, or what have you, those molding years where they need some guidance, they need some structure, some understanding about values and work ethic and all of that. And we get to be those employers for these people that when they're 30, 40, 50, they'll look back at some of the defining moments of their life. And it's awesome when they mention working for Elite Entertainment was one of those moments where I was this, that, but my work ethic, my organizational skills, or my people skills developed because of that job for 4 years. And it impacts them later when 30 years after in their life, because we all have jobs like that. We all had jobs that had that impact that helped make us who we are, and our leadership skills or our stick-to-itiveness or ability to, you know, to deal with challenging moments, etc. And we praise those people. Well, now we get to be those. And so that's what helped me to understand that I was in helping my staff to move on. Those who were still in the fringes that are going to come back when our industry comes back or we move forward with it, great. But those who found their passion in a different way are all grateful for what it helped them move on to the next level. And I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that, because I've done this now 40 years. And with that being the case, that I'll find there'll be always a new crop of people, and you got to train them and this and that. But you know what? That's exciting that you get a whole new group of minds that you'll get to help to develop, to encourage, move on their beings. And that's me even more important than just can they mix, can they this, can they lug equipment.
Awesome. Thank you. Howard?
Going last means I can't say what everybody said, such insightful, accurate, wonderful things. George, you're like a brother from another, man. I think it was the great Michael Walter who said, talent moves on.
Yes,
so.
that's one of the things I often say, and I think it's important that we all know that and we prepare for it. And like George said, it doesn't have to rock your world, and it doesn't even have to ruin your relationship with that person.
Listen, it starts at the beginning when we hire our team. You know, I always discern when I meet someone and I ask them to tell me about themselves, and you can learn if they're a quality son, a quality brother, a quality husband, right? A quality father. It resonates everywhere else in their life. It's always an issue when I hear that there's, you know, problems, you know, unfinished, unresolved issues. So I try to, from jump, have a more stable, you know, adult-minded, future-minded person who understands connecting all the dots and what hospitality really is and being extra, right? At this point, our staff understands that our clients have the highest amount of discretionary income. We're not operating at the lower level. We're operating at the higher level. So like all of you, the events are wonderful places and country clubs and destinations. There's all these wonderful events, and it really is a privilege that they're counting on us to, you know, for these 4 or 5 hours to make a difference, to move the dial. And now more than ever, my team appreciates these events don't just fall from heaven like manna, that there's real salesmanship and networking and follow through to even get these events, that there's, you know, 8 innings before they even come on board to be these personas and these musicologists and the tech team. They now know more than ever. One of the joys of this time frame has been I've been able to have some of my entertainers, some of my tech people on the sales call, you know, like hidden, where they're just, you know, listening in. And all of a sudden, the respect and appreciation for what it really takes, they're amazed at how I find the common denominators and how I'm the problem solver and I'm a solution and I'm resourceful, and they just are wowed by it. They didn't see or experience that firsthand before COVID. So it is a joy that I've been able to share some of the process behind the scenes with them. We've had some moments during COVID, which included, you know, the big topic of systemic racism and social responsibility. I actually reached out to Michael. I had a moment where I proactively asked everybody to have a serious meeting. Let's all get on Zoom and let's let's talk. Let's have a real conversation and see how everybody's feeling about this. But it was really an extension of the way that I have chosen to micromanage the team. In other words, to be authentic, to be their role model, their mentor, to be their big brother has required me to massage some of the rules and some of our regulations on a one-by-one basis, right? Everyone has different motivations. Everyone has different passions. And it is a side job for most people. And we're affording them this wonderful opportunity. It's a win-win, right? The client benefits from this great recipe and attitude that we're putting onto their special event. And these wonderfully talented people get to express themselves. So what has changed is that now a lot of the team is looking for opportunities to put bread on their table. And so they're taking things outside of A to Z that otherwise they wouldn't have. They would have pushed everything through here. And I have to deal with that reality. I don't know your worlds per se, but Mike knows that for years I've lived in the mitzvah world. So I have said to them, look, if someone needs you for the graduation, the quinceañera, the class reunion, okay, I understand to do that. Smaller production values, smaller dollars, but don't cross the line in the world of mitzvahs. That is our brand. That is where I need you to be loyal. And once you cross that line and take on a mitzvah outside of our brand, you change our relationship forever. So even during COVID, that must have consequences. And I think for the majority of our staff, they appreciate that. They respect that. There's been a lot of love both ways. And I think it would behoove them to at this point, to just let everything go, to make a short-term game rather than understand the long-term and the big picture. And I've had staff say, look, when this comes back, don't count on me. I'm using this time I'm enjoying my weekends as a family man or with my significant other. And you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Only call me if you need me. So I fully expect, maybe next August when we're back on the hamster wheel, that I am going to have to, like I said, have newer staff in the ready for those moments. And it's starting to already happen where some of the team is saying, hey, I got a pal. Hey, I know someone who'd be really good for this. And, we have the Facebook group and we have these online meetings every 3 weeks. But truth, less and less people are attending them because I'm not making them mandatory. I'm basically saying, let's catch up. Let's refresh. Let's renew. Let's do it together. And some people do it and some people don't.
So let me pick up from there, George. I also started a closed Facebook group with our staff a couple of years ago, and that's just a great place for us to chat and post funny pictures and break people's chops and things
cheer
like that.
Cheer each other on.
Exactly, yeah. And then once a month, I've been doing a Zoom call like this. I don't make it mandatory, just like I don't make my staff meetings mandatory, but we still get pretty good attendance, even to the point where one of the things I feel bad about that we're going to miss is we're recording this in October. By the time it's watched at DJ Expo, this will have happened. Jay Thompson celebrates his 20th anniversary with us this fall. And normally we would have a staff meeting. And at the end of that staff meeting, I would get all weepy and I would talk about how great Jay has been. And then I would hand him an award for being here 20 years. So my plan is at the November staff Zoom meeting, I've already ordered the plaque and I'm going to get it to his wife, who's going to hide it in their house. And I'm going to say blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to say, Jay, I wish we were together. I wish I could hand you your plaque in person, but why don't you go to the third drawer in the whatever, wherever Marissa hides it. And he's going to have his plaque. So I wish that were face to face.
Very well.
Yeah. I mean, I wish that were face to face, but it's the best I can do in a cyber world. But yeah, we've been doing the staff meetings. Glenn, kind of like what you said, most of my staff, other than my 2 full-time people in the office, which thankfully and PPP had a lot to do with it, I've been able to keep them all on. So myself and Lynn and Dominic we worked from home for a number of months, and then I brought them back in the office and we have been working full-time. But most of my DJ staff, this is a part-time gig. And, Howard, I fear that I might lose 1 or 2 to, hey, man, I enjoyed these weekends off and I'm not ready to go. But I also know for a fact some of them have said to me, "Hey, I'm opening up more dates because I really miss this and I miss the extra income, and I'm gonna keep doing this for longer than I thought." So I think it's gonna be hit and miss, which I think is a great segue into the last topic that I'd like to touch on here. Let's end with some optimism. Have you found a silver lining?
Can I also offer a quick hack? And I don't know, maybe Kristen, you're already doing this, but I wanted to say this to everybody and our viewers, that these private Facebook groups are gold for, passing on information. But I want to tell you something that I'm doing that has been particularly wonderful. And that is not only sharing newer reviews, like when the family or the client says someone's name, like David did an outstanding job, we loved his extra, but I'm also showing past reviews. People have egos. People love to see their name in print. I've been sharing both current reviews and past reviews. And what's happening is then they're posting them on it's just a win-win. If you're not doing that, I can't say enough. It's been a really good thing that I learned during this time frame.
Awesome. So let's end with some optimism. Hopefully everybody has something here, at least one thing. Have you found a silver lining? Is there something that you're like, hey, maybe this whole thing wasn't worth it per se, but this is the good that's going to come out of it? Kristen?
I'm going to piggyback on what George said when he spoke in July, and it has resonated with me like it did Glenn, and that was we really have the opportunity to build the business we want and not what we had. And so having the white space to be able to really think outside the box, be innovative on grassroots marketing that's free, which is social media, which I've already seen huge results from. And then just rethinking, with the challenges of the staff changing because just their schedule availability, but really digging into, how do I want to attract and train top talent to be able to have those lasting relationships. And so just looking at, what our application process looks like and the interview process and, how would you say, acclimating people to the culture, I think is going to be something that I'm going to be really, really focused on starting like last month. So I'm excited about revamping some of those things.
Thank you.
I think the silver lining falls into it's definitely the fact of just slowing down and appreciating, the slowdown of shelter in place. Well, I said earlier, like it was challenging with 2 little kids, but at the same time, it was great quality time, and it helped me remember, like, one of the things that helped me snap out of my funk during the shelter in place was on Instagram. I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. If you don't follow him, he's a great follow. And one of the things he talks about regularly, but it was, I saw it one day watching IGTV, and he talks about that today is not the worst day of my life. And he gives a quick summation of that. He has 2 children, he's married, and his parents are both alive. And he just states very clearly that I woke up today and the 5 people that I care about the most in the world are still alive, breathing, happy, and healthy. Today is not the worst day of my life. And I have really taken that to the micro for me of, I woke up today and the people that I care about are still alive, happy, and healthy. Today is not the worst day of my life. And at some point, I'm going to have to face those bad days, but it's not today. And today is the day to rally and to be productive and to see the positivity and to see the good things that are out there. Just one other little nugget that I'd love to give you guys is that as you're looking at stuff and you're seeing whatever you are seeing, whenever you're watching this on the economy side of things, remember that wealth does not disappear. It is only transferred. It goes from one bank account to another bank account. And there's a lot of truth to that in a lot of different places. And so, when we talk about things like what's going to come out of this pandemic, and there are things that are not event industry that are going to affect us. Primary case in point, colleges are going to have to adapt or die. A bunch of them are not going to make it just because of the financials. I don't say this flippantly. I don't mean this callously. It's just the financials that they've been based on and the value proposition that they've built upon is going to be challenged with all of this, and especially because enrollment was down this year. So you're going to have a lot of things on colleges that are going to be a challenge. For us, it's going to lead to a lot of young men and women who are looking for an opportunity. Mike Walter, much like when you were looking for an opportunity and looking at your checking out the umpires training, and
You remember that story,
yeah, man. And then you happen to find Star DJs, and how crazy is that? So I think there are going to be lots of young people that are looking at alternative routes to create a living, create a future for themselves that do not involve 4-year degrees, or at least 4-year expensive degrees. And I think that's an opportunity for us. I think that's an opportunity for us to look at the companies that we're building. And for those of you that want to grow and have other DJs, what skills are you going to create and teach and share? How are you going to share it efficiently? Are you going to be a good professor? Are you going to be the type of person that a young person wants to come and glean and learn from? And George, as you talked about, because it's whether they're looking at it as they're going to give you 12 months or 12 years, they want to be around people that they respect, that they appreciate, that they want to learn from, that they want to go to battle for. And so, for us, that to me is the silver lining, is to look and see, okay, here's what's going on in the world. Where are my opportunities in it? Because I think as entertainers, I think in the event industry, I think it's just a matter of recognizing that, yeah, the old normal, when we talk about normal, it's gone. That's fine. There's going to be new normal down the road. Now, masks are the new normal, and all the craziness is the new normal, but it's a temporary normal, I think. I believe and I hope it's a temporary normal. So, guys, I think that once testing improves and is quick, I don't know how many of you guys on this call, or how many of you watching this have gotten tested for COVID. I think once that process improves and it is rapid and less expensive, I think it's going to help a lot, because we had a scare back in July. Someone around us couldn't taste, so they went and got tested. They were positive. My wife went and got tested, and her initial test that she took over 3.5 weeks to get back. And luckily, my understanding is things have improved since July, but that type of system isn't feasible. I'm excited about the idea. I'm excited about the idea of some of these options that are going to come out that they're talking about that are going to be $5 for a 15-minute test. There's a group of Israelis that apparently think they have a 3D printable one that's going to be $2 and like under 60 seconds. And so you imagine being able to go to a corporate event, a wedding, whatever, and being able to just show up. Everybody goes to a station, they take a test.
Or a cruise ship.
Or a cruise ship, yep. I think about it, the example I give people is the NFL has 14 billion reasons to put people in the seats. And so, being in Dallas, looking at Cowboy Stadium, at the ones that are $5, Cowboy Stadium can hold 96 or something crazy like that, standing room only, but like 80,000 seated. Jerry Jones is crazy enough to spend $400,000 on testing everyone to have 80,000 people come in, because he'll make that up in popcorn sales. Mm-hmm. So I think that we can't just be looking for one thing, whether it's a vaccine or whatever one thing you're holding on to that's going to change all this. It's going to be a multitude of things, and we've got to be cheering for all of them and be responsible, because we're in the business of confidence. We're in the business of making people feel safe, and people do need to be safe. It's not, we don't want it to be a false sense, but I think as people get safe, start feeling safe, and we have better tools for measuring it, we're going to get there. So hang in there, guys. For those of you like in California, George, and as I tee it up to you, I love you guys. I'm thinking of you guys. Howard, you mentioned earlier the people that are doing the backyard movies for $300. And I agree with you. It's not something I would go put all the energy and thousands of dollars a year into for $300. But at the same time, when I see these guys in California, and as I've talked to them and hear their desperation in their voice from, I talked to one DJ and he's like, I had a good amount of money saved up when all this started, and I burned through it. I live in a state where I pay high taxes. No one expected it to last. And also for whatever reason, I don't know the full extent of his circumstances, but he's having trouble getting the state to approve his unemployment. And so he's like, I pay all these taxes. I can't get unemployment. I need to make a living. So for any of you that are watching this, as a parent, as a significant other, there's a lot of things. If you're going out and doing an event for $200, $300, $400 just so that you can put food on your table, there's no judgment from anybody else in this industry. We all understand it and get it. Please just remember that that's just a means to an end. It's not a long-term solution. It's basic math. Multiply out 52 weekends times $300 on a blow-up screen. It's a short-term feeling, but it's not something that's you can make a full business around. So,
George, before you give me your silver lining or give us, I'll just answer the question you posed, Glenn. I get tested every other week since I've been doing it, and I usually get a result within 48 hours.
It's getting a lot better, yes.
Yeah.
We need it to continue to improve.
Yeah, that needs to improve, but it's certainly not 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
George, give me a silver lining or two.
Well, as you guys were talking, things were coming in my mind on this, but I think the first and kind of quick, simple one for me was financials. From the business standpoint, was I had a director of operations who was my longest employee, who has now moved on, but she's moved on to pursue her college interest of what she wanted to do, and she's actually in psychology and helping women and stuff. So I'm actually happy. But she was with me for a little over 22 years. So with that though, but she handled all the financials. I didn't do payrolls. I didn't do any of the tax prepared reports. I didn't do any of that stuff. And the silver lining in that is what I learned is all of a sudden, like in April, totally immersed in it. It made me realize, why are we spending $59.99 on this? And why is it $29 on that app? And why do we have 3 subscriptions to this thing? And, all these little things that you normally are just out of your radar. You're not even paying attention, but it's, $500 a month you're spending on a bunch of riffraff or whatever, as well as other things. So that was a silver lining, was just being able to pay more attention to the ongoing day-to-day financials. Cause right now it was, really sharpening the pencil. So that was a great takeaway from it. In the commentary it was made in there, when we talk about that build the business you want, not the one you had, is I've asked a number of people as I've talked, and I've ran a number of meetings like this with other people, but it's kind of like, look, you always talk about a really great business has 6 months of operating expenses, on tap, filed to be able to deal with a issue of whatever it would be economically, this, that, and the other. And it's like, I didn't have that. And I'm luckily through my moves, I've been able to make it through these 7 months and et cetera, et cetera. But I realized my business could have been more successful and could have been more efficient in how it utilized, the financials. So that's something to be aha of it. Otherwise, you're going to go back to that same business, but you're like, if your margin was, 5% or whatever it was, or you were kind of making it week to week, it was like, come on, do you really want to go back to that versus finding a better, more effective way? The last thing, and I think this is the more powerful one for me, was it helped me really supercharge the appreciation, realization, inspiration. A quick story that I shared with a presentation I did, but it was, I think all of us realize that, we impact, and when people come back, they want to get together. And I absolutely agree. I think people can't wait to hug and be around each other and all of that. That's going to be huge. And I see it on the side, especially on the social DJ partying side. People won't be able to find enough reasons. I'm Mexican. Latinos, we find any reason to have a party, okay? It's the cat's birthday. We're getting together, carne asada, and we're having a party, piñatas and stuff. And we don't need a reason, okay? It's just seriously. I think it's going to be like that across. You all are going to become more Latinos. What's going to happen? You're going to be celebrating anything, man. Look, the tree grew another foot. Let's party.
Baila!
And it will. And I think that's great. But my realization was it was the appreciation of a couple of things. One, when I started doing some numbers at one point, when I was helping some of my employees in their kind of repositioning, started realizing the kind of money you're generating in this industry, and then realize, okay, if you got to go get a job to this pivot thing, and you're going to go work at Costco making $20 an hour, which is a decent job, right? $20 an hour at a Costco. And I did the math and realized didn't even get close to what you're generating from going out and doing our type of work. And to really be grateful, to really appreciate and say, oh my God, we've really had this amazing opportunity that after a while becomes just kind of ordinary and normal, But the real big one was understanding and realizing the impact that we each have, and all of you who are watching this presentation right now, the impact that you have, not because you just know great songs and you have cool equipment and the state of the art and all that stuff, but because of the emotional impact you have on these experiences for people's lives. And we've all had it where you've done this wedding and then the sister's wedding and then the brothers, and then you did a mitzvah or a quinceañera and a school dance and the anniversary for the parents and God knows what. And after a while, you're almost like a part of the family, right? We've all had that. And don't underestimate what significant impact that is and how they feel about you. And the testament of this came that one day my wife and I were sitting on the couch, and she was kind of Facebooking with a client of ours that we've done her wedding, her 65th birthday party, her daughter's graduation from USC, the granddaughter's sweet 16, and then we did another birthday. I mean, all this stuff with the family. And she was dialoguing with my wife, and she ends up telling my wife, I want to send you guys some money. My wife's like, what? Why? And she's like, I want to put $1,000 deposit down for a future event. And my wife is like, for what event? What date? She goes, I don't even have a date. Honestly, I don't even know if we'll ever have an event. I just feel bad for you guys and I want to help you. And it was like, and she was doing it because she just knew we were going through a rough time in our industry. We've had a link to all these amazing memories in their family. We're like a part of that. And I was blown away that she would reach out to us at 10:30 at night on a Tuesday, that this was on her mind, that she wanted to. And so I told my wife, I said, look, we don't necessarily need the money, but I don't want to rob her of what she's trying to do, because we love helping people and it feels great to help people. And so bottom line is, she went on to our DJP, made $1,000 payment for a date to be determined. And she just wanted to do that. She wanted to help us. And so I said to all of you, don't underestimate the impact, emotional value that you've given to your clients who have become friends over many years. And God's sake, we all want to get back to that part of it, but in a new future and even more appreciable way.
Thank you, George, very much. Howard?
Michael, again, following everybody is a challenge. You've got me all choked up, George. That was wonderfully articulate. This is a group of people, Michael, Glenn, Kristen, George, leaders who say what you mean and mean what you say. And how beautiful is it that your words and actions match? I don't want to repeat what everybody just said. I'm so impressed with everybody. And I hope that when this is all said and done, the viewers are grabbing onto these nuggets. I'm going to say that the silver lining, I'll say professional and I'll say personal. On the professional side, I mean, how great is it we're off the hamster wheel now, and we've been able to revisit our processes. And I know I've incorporated AI into my intakes, and just walking through, revisiting the customer journey and piecing all of that together, the welcome kit and behind the scenes, organizing the office, the warehouse, the storage, decluttering, selling off dated gear has been wonderful. I mean, things I've been wanting to do, and now they're getting done. I mean, that's no small thing when you've got a chance to breathe, right? And on the personal side, I'm gonna tip my hat to peer and friend Marcello Pedalino, who has really, really made it crystal clear how important it is, this life balance that we have, and really paying attention to our wellness. We can't be who we want to be for our family and our staff and our clients if we are not whole. So the silver lining is being more introspective, sharing with all these wonderful people on the regular. I've had such positive conversations with people who are being their true selves and vulnerable and really sharing. And it's been great. I mean, there's a lot of good coming out of this time. So, yeah.
So yeah, I'll give you two practical ones real quick. I am closer with the banquet people in my market than I've ever been. I have shared my cell phone with so many of them. We are constantly texting each other back and forth, often about a specific client. Hey, so-and-so's moving her date. Did she notify you? Blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times just to say, hey, Jeannie, how are you holding up? Everything okay? I've never been this close to the people who refer us, and I have to think that once we get back to some kind of normalcy, that's going to pay off in more referrals and everything else. And I think, Kristen, you said this already. A lot of my competitors have closed their offices, and we haven't, mainly because I own this. So I didn't want to stop paying rent to me, because that would have just hurt me. So, but we've kept the doors open here. And I don't know if an office is going to matter, but if it does, when we come out of this, we are going to be one of the few competitors that has one. So those are two practical ones, but I'll reiterate what's already been said. The pause, especially the pause this spring, you know, I remember loading out of my March 14th gig, saying to my assistant, this is going to be our last one for a while. I didn't know how long, but I knew it was going to be a while. And it was the very next day that the CDC shut everything down for 6 weeks. There was a moment in mid-April where we hadn't taken one deposit for about a month. We had no leads coming in, no deposits. And then we finally started trickling, and I closed the deal probably about a month after we had closed our last one. And I literally hung up the phone and I said, we took a deposit. And my wife was in the other room. She said, what just happened? And I said, we took a deposit. And I realized I had gotten blasé. You know, when you close 20 to 25 deals a week, every deposit goes in the bank, and you count it towards future revenue. But when that is stopped, you know, it's like the Eddie Murphy line about giving a starving man a cracker. Like, all of a sudden I was like, no, it's the best cracker I've ever had. Like, that was the best deposit I ever took. And I hope when we get back to 20 to 25, I never get that blasé about a deposit or an event or anything else. I'm getting emotional. Listen, thank you. You guys were my dream team, guys and gal. You're the first 4 people that I reached out to, and you honored me by saying yes. So thank you very much. I think this was wonderful. I'm sure that the DJ Times people are going to get a lot out of this. So you honored me by saying yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.
Our pleasure.
Have a great one. Ciao.